Nicole.
Well, hi there.
Well, hello. How are you?
It's been some time.
It's been a little bit of time. There's always some gaps. Yeah. Well, tonight we're doing Bros. Bros is a new romantic comedy starring Billy Eichner and Luke McFarlane, who you will know from probably Billy on the Street and the Hallmark Channel, respectively. Did you know much about this going in? I know you are a fan of Billy Eichner.
I am, and there's actually so many things going on in the Bros universe right now.
The Bros universe?
Yeah, I don't know if you've been following up on any of that, but I am one of the people lumped into the category of I had no idea that this existed until Billy Eichner got pissed off that nobody knew that this existed.
Well, that would check out.
Made everybody aware that this movie existed. So, no, I can't say that I knew about this, and even up to the point where we were walking in, I still didn't know what this was going to be about.
Oh, interesting. I thought you had seen a trailer at one point, but
nah, it doesn't seem to be. It wasn't as advertised, I guess, as he was hoping.
Bobby is a neurotic podcast host who's happy to go on Tinder dates and content to have not one serious relationship. That all changes when he meets Aaron, an equally detached lawyer who likes to play the field. Repeatedly drawn to each other, both men begin to show their vulnerable sides as their undeniable attraction turns into something resembling a commitment? ? So it is a two-hander. It is touted as the first major studio-backed film that has an entirely LGBTQ plus principal cast. I know there's been thousands of other LGBT plus Q plus cinema in the past, but I guess this is the big studio picture. It is doing very well critically. I think it's at 89 on Rotten Tomatoes and in the high 80s or 90s with the audience score. 6.8 on IMDb with a lot of one-star reviews, which another review bomb. We could talk about that when we get in. And it is absolutely bombing at the box office. It is not making its money back, so we can speculate on why that might be too. As you said, it sounded like Billy had some complaints about that. So
yeah.
We will. That's all the preamble you need. If you haven't seen it in theaters, and we're going to spoil it here now. So our main character is Bobby Lieber. He is a podcast host, and he's working at the LGBTQ plus museum, and they're getting the big opening. They got a big opening coming up. And it's been delayed a bunch of times. They've had financing problems, but that's what they're trying to do. And we mostly follow Bobby along, day in the life of him as a gay man, as a podcast host, as a curator of this museum. And he meets our love interest character, Aaron, at a nightclub. And they hit it off, but he kind of weirdly disappears from time to time, and then, it kind of follows a lot of standard rom-com tropey things where they go on dates and they get closer to each other, they have some friction and problems in their relationship with their insecurities and trust issues and all kinds of fun stuff like that you would expect in a rom-com, with the twist that they're gay, because that doesn't happen as frequently. So because of that, there were specific to the gay community, I guess, types of comedic moments to set it apart from straight rom-coms, I guess. Because as Billy says in the beginning of the movie, the gay relationships not like straight relationships, according to him. So we learn all about that in this story. So Nicole, what did you think of Bros?
Oh boy. I thought that this movie was very funny. But it was just one of those movies where me and Brennan are the only two fucking laughing in the whole theater. And I don't...
Yeah.
That kills my mood so quickly when I'm in a public setting and there's other people watching the same thing I am and they're missing cues or they're not getting why this is funny, I fucking hate that. Do you feel that way?
Oh, I am very pro audience participation, so I am surprised to hear, because we just did the Women King a few weeks ago, and you weren't on that review. I remember.
Well,
but
there's a difference.
Yeah, what's the difference?
I don't need your extra commentary at all. I just need you to laugh at the parts that are supposed to be funny. Just fucking validate the creator.
What about clapping? How do you feel about clapping?
Maybe in like a Marvel movie or something would be fine.
I'm pro. I like when the theater reacts to stuff. But I like it even more. Like, I like laughs, but I like, oh shit, and like people. I like the muttering, "Don't go in there" in a horror movie. Like, I like when the audience is kind of into it a little bit when it's about the movie, not when they're like talking amongst themselves on something else.
Yeah, well, it was just, a dull crowd really dulls the experience.
Yeah, what were there? We saw it in a big theater, 15, 20 people in there, probably. Like, a lot of empty seats. But we saw it on a Tuesday, but it was like one of those discount Tuesdays. So you'd think the crowd would be a little bigger on opening weekend. Or opening weekend Tuesday.
Oh, I didn't know it just came out at that time.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it after maybe 4 or 5 days.
I'll say that as I just mentioned, we laughed a lot at this, and I think it was just because there's some Billy Eichner-ish stuff in here, and I do like him, and I've always liked his series of Billy on the Street because I think it's asinine, and I normally don't like that stuff, but something about him just really entices me. And the fact that he wrote this, I guess he really was trying to make a statement about something, and that's wonderful. I'm glad that they had a full LGBT cast in this, and it's not just, as I believe they even mentioned in this movie, it's not just straight people pretending to be gay in a movie. So I like that aspect of it. Did I like the movie? That is kind of a loaded question to me.
Interesting.
I don't know how far they've towed the line on satire of a rom-com, or if this was supposed to be a genuine rom-com. If it was, then it was terrible. If it was supposed to be satire, and this guy, the other actor, is literally in Hallmark movies, and they touch on Hallmark movies in this movie,
right?
And they use that as funny, jokey, that's fine. But if it's not, and it's literally supposed to be them walking around New York, and they go into the Christmas bazaar, like, all that stuff was just real phony to me. I didn't like the progression of the relationship at all, to the point where at the end where they break up and then they don't break up and blah blah blah. I'm like, oh my god, this is so stupid.
It goes all the way to the whole, like, it goes to the tropiest places, and I don't know if I guess it's just leaning in to that.
Well, like, I have to imagine that there is some sort of satire to this, because even just some of the parts where they're like, oh, look at the new Hallmark film that came out, My Non-Binary Polyamorous Life, or whatever. Yeah. Like, that's so extreme. And is the rest of this supposed to be seen as extreme, or am I just supposed to see this as a rom-com, but we're highlighting a gay relationship? So I think that's where it loses me a little bit. I see no problem with that. I would love for that to happen, but are you making it more out of the box because you're gay, or is this what you see when you watch a romantic movie? Do you know what I mean?
I'm surprised this is like a pretty standard rom-com movie. The only thing that is greatly differentiates it from like classic straight rom-coms is that like the joke scenes or like the funny like the actual jokes are based on like it's based on like the situations that only gay people would find themselves in, or like specifically they would find themselves in. There's a lot of like group sex and casual sex scenes, and a lot of the comedy comes from that. And I think it's because like that's where like the differentiation comes. But you're right, when it comes to the plot mechanics and like the actual like rising and falling action, and like where this is the climactic scene, the breakup, and then they got to get back together with the big song at the end. Like it follows it from a structural standpoint. It's not innovative at all. It's completely standard. It's just your mileage will vary on how funny the jokes are, I guess. Mm-hmm. Which, for my money, they were hilarious. I thought this was a very funny movie. I laughed at this more in the theater than I can't remember the last movie I laughed this much in. But you're right. You and I were the only two laughing for large stretches. There were some other jokes that got people, but I think you and I, once again, were the consistently loudest laughters.
They're taking like parts of other films they mentioned When Harry Met Sally, and there's a scene where Bobby is at the gym after he's taken roids and meets up with that one gentleman, and they go back to that guy's place, and he tricks him with the deep voice. And
oh my god, yes.
It's basically like a woman catfishing somebody, right? It's like the same thing. Like you get there and she pulls the socks out of her bra or whatever. That's the kind of funny thing they're trying to do there. And I guess we're just supposed to be looking at it as this is everyday life, but in a different lens of a gay person. And that's totally fine, but you either stick to that all the way or you make it like normal. I just can't tell if this is supposed to be satire or not.
Well, I think at the beginning, it's very day-to-day life. Like the intro of the movie is him on his podcast, and he does a pretty standard Billy Eichner kind of rant that you would expect. And then we see a lot of his day-to-day life. He's walking across the street, and he's on Grindr, and then he goes and meets up with a guy, and they literally go like, sup, and then they take the shirts off, and they jerk off on each other, and then they leave. And then, like, that's, like, a lot of the comedies, like, that kind of stuff, which is, like, very, like, that doesn't happen in, at least as far as I know, straight relationships as common, but, those are the kind of, like, specifically, like, this community differences where, like, that's where the comedy's from. And that's why that feels fresh.
I can imagine that some of the storyline in here of meeting up and using that app, and I've seen that firsthand. I've seen that from friends, and they show me what happens on Grindr and things. It is an app like Grindr. It's literally like, hey, here's my penis, let's come over my house. And like that's exactly what they show in this movie too. It's not out of the question, and that's why I think if people see that and they're like, oh, that never happens, that's not true. It does happen. But if you're gonna be realistic with that, I just feel like the rest of it needs to feel that way, and it loses it for me a little bit. I couldn't tell what the plot with Aaron was supposed to be, because they allude to, oh, maybe he's not gay, maybe he is trans, maybe he hasn't come out to his parents. Like there's so many different little steps along the way that were they going to be the plot and then they changed it, or was this something that they just thought was average to add in there?
Yeah, you and I were speculating that there was going to be a reveal that the Aaron character was gonna, he's
married to a woman. I don't know, something.
Like, or I think my theory throughout the movie was that he was gay for pay. That like he was gay, but like would only like do stuff like group sex stuff for money, and then like that's how he like justified it to himself because he comes from like a Midwestern-y kind of background. I thought that's where they were going, but no,
he's
like
from Upper New York.
Oh, that's right. Well, but yeah, upstate New York. So it's but when we meet his family, they're upstate New York. They're not New York. I think they even make a joke: New York City versus. Look at us all the way from New York, upstate New York to New York City.
Yeah,
but it is different. Like they're very different backgrounds. But and then you thought it was gonna be that he at one point you thought, oh, was he gonna reveal to be trans, and then they're gonna do that.
Well,
but then,
yeah, because they make a huge point when they're in that Airbnb that he's using some sort of steroid or something, or he says, "I'm using testosterone."
Yeah, that's what I thought. When you said that, I was like, "Oh, good point."
With anything? Yeah, what does it have to do with anything?
It's just part of his character thing. Maybe it's a red herring. Like it's just part of who he is. I don't know.
Or maybe we don't know what that means, like what that is used for. Maybe we're ignorant to that. I don't know.
Well, maybe there's a joke that's going over both our heads. Like, but not another question. But
that to say, if this movie is meant for awareness of LGBT people, and you use a joke like that, if you are trying to educate others and it goes over people's heads, then it's like it sucks. Like not that the joke sucks, it sucks that it's not understood. Like I wish I understood it better, I guess.
Yeah, I think, but we did, and maybe that's a problem because like you and I did laugh a lot, but we probably got a higher percentage of jokes than other audience members, like because we're decently pop culturally ingrained, so we probably pick up a good amount of stuff. We watch a shit ton of shit, so we just
I mean, like I don't know if anybody, I don't want to brag about our knowledge of things, but I feel like
we know all the jokes,
especially. Well, I have more than you a better understanding of pop culture for the past 30-40 years, and I like to pride myself on that because I understand things. And we have a whole scene with Deborah Messing in it, and if you are someone younger than me or my age and you aren't familiar with like 90s television or whatever, and you don't know what Will and Grace is, that whole scene goes right over your head. You'd be like, who is this woman? And why is it such a big deal that she's freaking out that a gay guy is asking her advice? Like,
right.
That is funny to me, but at the same time, I feel like if you don't understand it, you're not going to understand this movie as much.
It's just surprising. Like I've never seen an episode of Will and Grace, and if you had told me Deborah Messing before this movie, I wouldn't have been like, "Oh, that's the woman from Will and Grace." But I see this, and I understand the context. I'm like, "Oh, there she is. They've said her name about Will and Grace. I know what that show is because I've heard of that show before. I understand now." But maybe some people don't even connect those dots. Like some people,
they don't. They definitely won't.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
That's maybe why the score is so bad, because people aren't getting it.
Well, that's the thing.
Provincetown has a whole history and understanding what Provincetown is and the culture there and the acceptance and everything, talking through the museum about Stonewall and all that stuff. It's a great learning experience, and hopefully people come back from this and we're like, oh, I wonder what that means. There's plenty of documentaries and things about it, but when you put it into a comedy, perhaps what he was trying to do is bring more attention to some of these things. But if you're not willing and open to learn, then this movie you would probably think is just, oh, this is all over the top.
So, and that's the other thing. We said not doing well at the box office, because critically 89, and then user scores it's at a 90 on Rotten Tomatoes score, and then IMDb's is lower. They got a bunch of 1 stars. I think you can chalk a good amount of that up to homophobia, but there's also some posted by people claiming to be gay and feeling alienated by the movie, and that it's a bunch of caricatures and I think there's probably people who are gay and feel like all the lewd sex is just it's negative reinforcement. Like, we're not all like that. So why is, of course, another stereotype? I can see that. I can't see, from my own perspective, but I can see how someone could feel that.
I do too, but at the same time, wouldn't there also be just as much negative review if it was literally Home for the Holidays from Hallmark, but they put 2 dudes in it and they didn't explain the cultural difference and way that gay people need to react in society is different. Like, because of homophobia and shit. Like, they need to hide themselves and things like that. So that review can be interpreted in two ways to me. And it's unfortunate that sometimes I feel like it's a lose-lose situation. It shouldn't be. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it is. But other people could see that. It's like, do you want to make it over the top so people understand? Or do you want to make it subdued and you feel like you're not doing it justice? It's a tough place to be.
What's the thing? It's like,
that's why I enjoy that this movie was made, and it was more realistic than just, two gay guys end up on a farm together, as they allude to in Brokeback Mountain and things like that.
Right. This isn't they make fun Oscar of that. Picture, like a dramatic picture where, like, you know, they do, or it's Brokeback Mountain, Harvey Milk. There's a lot of Harvey Milk references. That movie, Sean Penn playing Milk. Yeah. So.
Do you want them to just plop two gay guys in a Hallmark movie and they meet on a farm and it's a lawyer and a journalist, or do you want it to be, this is what New York City is like for a gay person, and these are how we meet people, and this is how we interact in a community? And there's probably orgies and there's probably hookups, but that's what straight people do too. It just so happens that there's two men on the screen, and I hope that's not why. I know it is, but I hope that's not why people are just downvoting this.
Well, that's part of what Billy Eichner's arguing, and maybe it's just his character, but he co-wrote this with Nicholas Stoller, who's done a bunch of like Judd Apatow-y kind of comedies. He did Forgetting Sarah Marshall, Logan the Greek, 5-Year Engagement, a bunch of other like Judd Apatow-y kind of like raunchy comedies, and like that's what this kind like a lot of the actual like laughs are like. Lowbrow raunchy sex jokes. Like some of the big laughs are like when they're having a serious talk and they both got their shirts off, and then we see the shot waist down and they both are the one guy's getting blown by those other two guys, because that's like how they meet the hook that couple. Yeah, like that's like that when they have their first in quotes sex scene, when like they're like roughhousing and then they're like sticking each other's fingers and feet in their mouths and they're like punching each other too. But like it's just like all of, like some of the funniest like laughs for me were like that kind of stuff where like it's foreign, like that's because that's like not what I've ever done, because I've never been with a man, but like it's played very well. Like it comes across.
The thing. Would you be laughing if that was like, I'm just throwing two names out there, like Paul Rudd and Leslie Mann, right? If they were in this room sticking their toes in each other's mouths, would you be laughing?
No,
you would think it was disgusting.
I think it would be. I might do like a strange chuckle laugh, but it wouldn't be as funny. But it's the non used to itness that's funny. Or I guess some people would not like that, but like I don't know. I find it like it's clearly played for laughs, and I think it works.
I wouldn't like either one of those. I'm just saying.
Well, like I guess it's like your mileage will vary too, and like your comfortableness with like some people don't like watching any sex in movies. I don't really like care. I don't really look for it, but I don't. It's not like it. It doesn't move the needle for me, like one way or the other. I'm not opposed to it, nor do I find it particularly interesting.
So, tell me about what you think of the cast of people here that are working in the museum with him.
Some of their scenes are like. I'm conflicted because they're so clearly written. Like when it's the big council of the LGBTQ museum council that they're on, like when they talk to each other about their different gripes and grievances about, no one remembered bisexual week. Of course I only get a week, and the lesbians get a whole month, and like all their little internal squabbles. It doesn't come across as like super realistic conversation, but the ideas are there. Like it's like I get like this seems true in a more like abstract sense. Like the positions are true, but the conversation, it doesn't feel real. Do you get what I mean? Like it feels it feels written. but it's still funny.
Yeah. I mean, if you really look at I don't know if we dive too deep into this stuff, but if you look at a scene where a museum is trying to accumulate an additional $5 million and it's due in 2 days.
Yes.
Are you dicking around yelling about who had bisexual week and who had lesbian month? No, you're fucking scrambling.
That's why it's not realistic. It doesn't feel like these are people who have worked together for years and are like finally getting this project off the ground. Like this squabble is
no, it's
like
setting a
artificial.
Scene though, like, oh, hey, little sis, remember when mom died?
Right. It is exactly like that. And it's obvious and I recognized it immediately, but the jokes are still funny. A lot of the thing about this movie is that it's tropey and conventional and like But I laughed so much. I really did. Like, the jokes were so damn funny. Like, I laughed... For the first hour, I laughed so much. The last second hour is a little... they lean more into the sentimental and the messaging, which I don't think was bad. Like, I don't think it was cringy. I never felt like, it's too much. But, like, the first half is so funny. Like, it's a very funny movie.
I'm just reviewing some of the things that Billy is saying right now about this, and there's a Yahoo article that came out today. It's the most recent one.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's touching on... He thinks that it didn't do so well because straight people are not attending this movie. And I guess he wrote a controversial tweet. I didn't see what it is.
I mean, straight people are still, 90-ish% of the population, so that is still, most people.
He said he didn't make this movie for homophobes, and he's just pissed.
I don't think 90% of straight people are homophobes, but the thing is,
Do you think that it was a weird thing? Like, I didn't see very much advertisement.
Well, it's always very hard for me with these things because everything that I look at is movie shit, and because, the algorithms know you. And so when I go on my social medias, when I go on my Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, even when I'm just on Google looking up something, my ads are all for movie stuff. So I knew about this because the algorithm knows that all I look up is movie shit. But, so it's hard for me to know. I heard about this movie tons. I saw previews for it, and it looked good. Like, the trailer convinced me. But, yeah, it's unfortunate that it didn't break out. I don't agree with
what he's saying. Yeah, I don't quite agree with what he's saying, that he thinks only gay men saw this movie. That's not true. The people in our theater, there was an older couple, a straight couple. There was 2 women in front of us. There was me and you. Like,
of the people in our theater, I can't think of any obviously gay couples because I can't think of 2 men there together. It was mostly like there were some families and like a lot of women. Like, but I'm hard pressed to think of a gay couple in there.
I'll say in Delaware, there wasn't the gay men coming out in droves to watch this
in metropolitan Delaware. Yes, there was not. To be fair, we live in a pretty diverse area, socioeconomically, racially. Like we got all kinds of stuff going. So
we do.
It's a good demographic, and it was. And the bigger problem is
that. What's that?
I would say the bigger problem is we were in a theater that was 3/4 empty, and we were the only ones laughing at most of the jokes. There were jokes that other people laughed at, but you and I definitely laughed the most.
Yeah, definitely.
And you're on the fence, it sounds like, overall, anyway, like with the whole movie. I enjoyed it immensely.
I like the cast. I've seen the majority of the people that work in the boardroom.
Yeah, a lot of recognizable like TV faces I saw.
I believe I've seen the mom before. I'm watching our cat crawl into a box that clearly cannot hold her, so that's going to be great.
Yeah. Hopefully she survives till the next couple minutes before we wrap up. So.
Yeah. So I did like the cast, but I totally agree with you, and this leads me back to what I said originally. I can't tell if they really tried to hit home different quirks and characteristics of different lifestyles, and if they really would have talked like that in a board meeting, or if even the 2 main characters she's going down.
Commenting on the cat no one sees.
Or if, the conversations that these two had, oh, I hear you're boring. Well, I'm not boring. I'm a lawyer. No, that's boring. Let's have sex. I like you. Okay, I like you too, but I don't like you that much. Well, me either. But now I love you, and I'm sad that you hurt me. Like, is that really what we wanted to get out of this movie, or did we want to just highlight that there's many different people in this world? I don't get it.
He's not a lawyer. He's a funeral. He's like a funeral director guy or something.
He's a will lawyer.
Yeah. Well, that's another part. Like, that's another, like, is it supposed to be tropey? Like, oh, I have this horrible job in the big city and I'm from a small town and I just want to make my little chocolates. That's his that's his thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's straight out of a Hallmark
stereotypical.
Movie. Yeah.
Oh, a gay guy likes making little frilly chocolates.
Yeah, and he's exactly modern day. Not
I feel like
come out.
I just feel like they're damned if they do and damned if they don't. If they made him like, oh, I want to be a construction worker, like, oh yeah, you want to do that because you're around men all day. But no, I want to make little chocolates. Like, oh, that's so gay. Whatever. Like, I feel like the movie was just damned from the start. It's a shame. I don't want it to be like that. I would love to see more things like this because it was funny, but maybe there is a little bit of insight as to what Billy's saying about his film. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, I don't know how much of it is actually like. It's hard to say how much homophobia is driving a rom-com released in late September, early October against bigger movies. There's no stars in this. Again, like Billy Eichner and Luke McFarlane, they're not.
That's another thing that they brought up too. They were like, "How come this wasn't saved for Valentine's Day? Is this a love story?" Right.
This would have been great to come out in February because there's garbage movies in February.
They have all those Oscar season fucking ones that come out Valentine's Day and New Year's Eve, whatever the fuck.
Exactly. What came out this year? "Marry Me" with Jennifer Lopez and Owen Wilson. And that's like, another, I didn't see that, but I'm sure it was right down the middle, 3-star blah blah fest. And you could have released this against that, and this would have done much better, I think. The thing is, I think star power matters when it comes to rom-coms, because, like, horror movies, people always go see horror movies. They want to jump out of their seats. Superhero movies, avatars, they got their audience built in. Film snobs like Tarantino and Christopher Nolan fans. But the rom-com, like, if it's gonna be not blockbuster names, you just gotta release it on streaming now, I think. Like, this probably would have done fine. Probably would have been in the top 10 on Netflix on streaming, but I don't know if people want to go to the theaters at the end of September for a rom-com with people they never heard of in it.
Yeah, it's really, I think it was just a storm of unfortunate events for it.
Yeah, but do we like it overall? That is the real question. Are you going to recommend Bros, Nicole?
Man. I'm going to say no. And the reason I say that...
That is not what I thought you were going to say, based on anything.
I liked it. If I recommended this to my gay friends, they'd say, "Why are you showing me this stupid thing? This is not like how my life goes." Like, this is satirical. If I showed it to other people, they would say that wasn't very good because it wasn't funny or whatever. I mean, we know progressive people. If I picked somebody that I normally recommend movies to, I don't think they would like this because it's not their style.
I'm recommending this because I laughed so much. I laughed a lot, and I think that's the best thing about this, is that, like, if you go in and you just want to laugh at a comedy, I think this works. The way it was marketed on, like, the importance factor and the representation matters kind of thing. I mean, yeah, it's good to have representation in a big movie, but when it comes to the actual, like, mechanics of the movie, it's very standard. It's not breaking the mold, but it gets lots of laughs. So that's what I got to say. I recommend it. We got one recommend and one non-recommend. Was not surprised, not seeing that coming. But there you go. Split decision on Bros. And we got more other stuff coming up, more Oscar-y kind of stuff in October, November, December. There's all the big big blockbuster-y things too that'll drag people to see, and then we can do our end of the year shows. Those are the real treats. But
yeah.
Top 5 show, the draft show. Oh, this is gonna be a great draft here. This is deep bench. I'm very excited. But meantime, Films with Women in My Life on Facebook. Reach out to me on Instagram. I'm Brennan_podhost. And you can email the show, filmswiththewomen@gmail.com. Thanks for being on for Bros, Nicole.
Okie dokie.
Till next time, this is Brennan signing off, saying thanks for listening and enjoy your movies.
Thanks for listening to Films with the Women in My Life. If you enjoyed being a listener in our life, please rate and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or on your favorite podcast app. Keep up with the latest from the show on Instagram at Brennan_podhost, on Facebook at Films with the Women in My Life, and on Twitter at FilmsWomenPod. Finally, you can email the show with questions and suggestions at filmswiththewomen@gmail.com. Original music for the show was created by Ian Burke and Chris Iwanek. Original artwork created by Nicole D'Alessio. This show is produced by Brennan Snyder. Thank you again for listening and enjoy your movies.